Zanele from Uyo loved Sipho with everything she had. From the moment she met him, she believed he was the one. She would smile just thinking about him, and her heart felt full whenever he was near. But Sipho wasn't the warm, caring man she had imagined. He was distant, cold, and often acted like her love was a burden. Still, Zanele kept loving him. She told herself that maybe he had been hurt before. Maybe he just needed time. Maybe her love would fix everything. She would send him long, sweet messages, cook his favorite meals, and always made time for him, no matter how busy she was. Even when he ignored her or brushed her off, she stayed. Her friends warned her. They told her she was giving too much, but she didn't care. Love is patient, she would say. He just needs to feel safe. Zanele believed in love so deeply that she didn't realize how much it was hurting her. Nights passed with no calls. Dates were cancelled last minute. Sometimes he would disappear for days, and when he returned, he acted like nothing happened. Still, she welcomed him with open arms every time. She prayed, cried, hoped, and gave more than she had to give. But Sipho never changed. And Zanele, the woman who loved too deeply, kept waiting for the man she loved to finally see her worth. Little did she know, her love story was about to take a different turn, one she never expected. Zanele tried everything to make their relationship feel alive again. Every day she cooked Sipho's favorite meals. The spicy jollof rice he used to say reminded him of his childhood. The pepper soup that once made him smile after a long day. She would light candles, set the table nicely, and wait for him to come home. But most nights, she ate alone. The food went cold. Her heart went colder. Sipho would send a quick text, still at work, or sometimes say nothing at all. The silence grew heavier with each passing night. She tried to talk to him, late at night when the world was quiet, and they lay side by side in the dark. She would turn to him gently and ask, "Are you okay? Is something wrong?" But he would sigh, turn his back and say, "I'm tired." That was it. Just tired. No explanation, no emotion, and then silence. Again. Zanele's phone became a symbol of hope and disappointment. She would send him long, thoughtful messages during the day, telling him how much she missed him, how proud she was of him, how she wanted to help make things better between them. But the messages would remain unread for hours. Sometimes they were seen, but never replied to. She started deleting them after a while, pretending she never sent them in the first place. It was easier that way. Even when he was physically present, Sipho felt far away. He would scroll through his phone during dinner, barely saying a word. He didn't notice her new hairstyle, didn't ask how her day was, didn't even look up when she laughed. The apartment was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that shouted everything that was wrong. No arguments, no fights, just distance, just emptiness. Zanele kept trying. She thought if she just loved him harder, maybe he would come back to her emotionally. She planned little date nights, left sweet notes in his bag, even bought him small gifts, just because. But nothing worked. He was always busy, always tired, always somewhere else. It felt like loving a ghost, someone who was there, but not really. Deep down, she knew something was wrong. Love wasn't supposed to feel this lonely. She missed being seen, being heard, being held. She missed the version of him that used to light up when he saw her. But that version of Sipho felt like a memory now, fading more and more each day. Still, she stayed. Because when you love someone that deeply, you don't give up easily. But with every ignored text, every cold dinner, every silent night, something inside her began to break. And once it broke, it would never be the same again. Zanele had been counting down the days to her birthday, even though a part of her wasn't sure if Sipho would remember. Still, she hoped. She told herself this time would be different. Maybe he was planning a surprise. Maybe he was just pretending to be distant. But deep down, he cared. So, she spent the day preparing. She bought a small cake, her favorite. She lit candles, set the table, and wore the red dress Sipho once said looked beautiful on her. She even sprayed that perfume he liked, the one he used to lean in and smell when he hugged her. She waited. Hours passed. The candles melted into soft puddles. Her food turned cold. Her smile faded. She checked her phone every few minutes. No call, no message, nothing. Midnight came, and she was still sitting there, cake untouched, phone in hand, heart sinking. She whispered, "Happy birthday" to herself, just to hear someone say it. Then she blew out the candles in the dark, holding back tears. It wasn't the birthday she imagined. It was worse than being alone. It was being forgotten. She barely slept that night. Her mind was loud, spinning with questions. Why didn't he come? Where was he? Did he even care? The next morning, she reached for her phone out of habit and opened social media, and that's when everything shattered. There, clear as day, were pictures of Sipho, laughing, smiling, holding hands with another woman. They were at a restaurant, candles lit, glasses raised. Her birthday night, her special day. He wasn't working late. He was celebrating with someone else. Zanele couldn't breathe. Her hands shook as she stared at the screen. It felt like a cruel joke, like someone had taken a knife and carved through her chest. The betrayal was so sharp, she couldn't even cry at first. Just silence, shock, then pain, so deep it made her body ache. She thought of all the times she forgave him, all the nights she waited, all the love she gave without question. And this is what she got in return: a broken heart and a clear answer. He had moved on emotionally, maybe long ago, and she was the only one still holding on. She sat on the edge of the bed, still in her birthday dress, now wrinkled and stained with silent tears. The cake was still on the table, untouched. The candles long burned out. Everything she had hoped for had turned to ashes overnight. That birthday didn't just hurt her, it changed her. Something inside Zanele cracked. The part of her that believed love could fix anything. The part that kept giving chances. The part that stayed even when she was empty. It started to let go. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly. Because sometimes the loudest goodbye is the one where you say nothing at all. The morning after her birthday, Zanele didn't even wait for Sipho to come home. She stayed quiet, calm, and held herself together like she always did. But her chest was burning with pain. Her mind was heavy with questions. When he finally walked through the door, acting like nothing had happened, she looked at him and asked, "Where were you last night?" Sipho didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He didn't even look surprised. He just shrugged and said, "Out." That was it. No explanation. No guilt. Nothing. Zanele's voice trembled as she told him she saw the pictures. She asked how he could do that to her, on her birthday of all days. Her eyes filled with tears as she begged for the truth, for honesty, for even a small sign that he cared. But Sipho only scoffed. Then, with a cold smile, he said the words that broke her completely. "You're too clingy, always crying, always needing something. It's exhausting." Those words hit her harder than any silence ever had. After everything she had done for him, after all the times she stayed, forgave, and gave him the best of herself, he called her clingy, like her love was a burden, like her pain was annoying. She stood there frozen as the tears rolled down her face, not because of what he said, but because in that moment she realized something. Her pain didn't matter to him. Her tears meant nothing. He wasn't just emotionally distant. He didn't care, not even a little bit. That night, Zanele didn't cry herself to sleep like before. She didn't beg or try to fix things. She didn't send another long message or cook his favorite food. No, that night was different. That night, Zanele made a silent decision. She packed away the hurt, folded it neatly in her heart. She stopped trying to understand why he didn't love her the way she loved him. She stopped blaming herself. She stopped hoping he'd change. She didn't shout or slam doors. She just sat quietly, thinking about all the times she gave him chances, all the times she put herself last just to keep him first. And she realized she had done enough, more than enough. Sipho had no idea what was happening in her mind that night. He thought it was just another argument she would forget by morning, but something had shifted. Zanele's silence wasn't weakness. It was strength building. That night, she looked at herself in the mirror and whispered, "This is the last time I cry over him." And even though her heart was still breaking, something inside her was slowly coming back to life. She wasn't going to beg for love anymore. She was done explaining her worth to someone who never cared to see it. Something had ended that night. Not just a relationship, but the part of her that thought love meant suffering. And in that quiet moment, Zanele chose herself. One quiet morning, just before the sun came up, Zanele woke up early, got out of bed and started packing. No loud noises, no tears, no long goodbye. She moved slowly, but with purpose, folding her clothes, picking up the small things that mattered, and leaving behind everything that didn't. She didn't leave a note. She didn't explain. She didn't even look back at the apartment one last time. She just walked out the door with her bags and left. Sipho didn't notice at first. He thought maybe she went to visit a friend or needed space. He shrugged it off like he always did. Days passed. He came home to an empty apartment. No home-cooked meals. No messages asking when he'd be home. No warm smile waiting. Just silence. At first, he enjoyed it. No one asking questions. No one nagging, as he used to say. But after a while, the silence became louder. The apartment felt colder. The air was still, like something was missing, but he didn't want to admit it. A week passed, then 2, then 3. Sipho finally tried calling her. The phone rang, but she didn't answer. He tried texting. "Where are you? Are you okay? Let's talk." But there was no reply, no blue ticks, nothing. He asked her friends, but they said they hadn't heard from her. Some were angry. Others didn't even want to talk to him. One of them finally told him, "You don't get to ask where she is. You lost that right a long time ago." That's when the truth started to sink in. Zanele was really gone, not just out of the apartment, but out of his life. She had left so quietly, so peacefully, that no one saw it coming, and that's what made it even more powerful. Sipho had spent so long ignoring her, taking her love for granted, that he didn't believe she would ever leave. In his mind, she would always be there, waiting, forgiving, hoping, but she wasn't, not anymore. Now, every corner of the apartment reminded him of her, the empty chair at the table, the blanket she always used on the couch, the faint smell of her perfume on the pillow. All the things he never noticed when she was there suddenly became loud reminders of what he had lost. People started talking. "Where's Zanele? Did you hear she left?" She finally walked away from him. Her disappearance became more than just a personal moment. It was a quiet shockwave through everyone who knew her. And Sipho, for the first time in a long time, he felt something. Not love, not guilt, but emptiness. A deep, aching emptiness that no one else could fill. Because the woman who loved him the most had finally stopped waiting. She left without a single word, but her silence said everything. Months had passed since Zanele disappeared. Sipho had tried to move on, but nothing felt the same. The apartment was still quiet, but now the silence haunted him. He went to work, came home, scrolled through his phone, and repeated the same lonely routine. Life felt empty. He never heard from Zanele again, and deep down, he started to believe he never would. Then one day, while driving through the city, something caught his eye. A giant billboard stood tall above the traffic, and there she was, Zanele, her face glowing with confidence, eyes calm and strong. She looked so different from the woman who used to cry quietly beside him. And right next to her photo, in bold letters, was the title of her book, "I Loved Him Too Much." Sipho's heart stopped for a second. He pulled over, staring at the billboard like it was a dream. But it wasn't. Zanele had written a book, a memoir, her story, their story, the pain, the heartbreak, the silence, the betrayal. It was all there, printed and published for the world to see. And not just any book, a bestseller. People were talking about it everywhere, on social media, on TV, in bookstores. Women were quoting her words, sharing their own stories, and saying how her book made them feel seen. Zanele had taken the love that broke her and turned it into something powerful. She didn't use his name in the book, but he knew. He knew. Every sentence, every chapter, it was their past laid bare. But this time, she was the one telling it, not with bitterness, but with truth, with strength, with grace. Sipho bought a copy. He read it in one night. With every page, he felt smaller. He saw himself through her eyes for the first time. He saw the nights she waited, the tears she hid, the hope she held on to. He realized how deeply she had loved him, and how completely he had failed her. But what hurt the most wasn't just the truth. It was the woman she had become, free, respected, admired. She had taken all that pain and used it to build a new life. Without him, Zanele was no longer the quiet woman sitting at home waiting for love. She was on magazine covers, doing interviews, standing in rooms full of people who listened when she spoke. She had a voice now, and the world was listening. For the first time, Sipho felt what she must have felt for so long, powerless, forgotten. He thought she would always be in his shadow, always holding on, but she had stepped into the light, and now, everywhere he looked, her face was there. Not as the woman who once begged for his love, but as the woman who rose without it. And just like that, the girl he once ignored had become the woman the whole world couldn't stop talking about. The world had already started to notice Zanele after her book became a bestseller, but it was her first big TV interview that truly made her a household name. It wasn't just any interview, It was the kind that stopped people in their tracks, the kind that made you feel every word deep in your chest. The clip spread like wildfire. Within hours, it was everywhere. Social media was flooded with comments, shares, and praise. Zanele sat on the couch across from the talk show host, dressed in a simple but elegant outfit. Her smile was soft, but her presence was powerful. She didn't cry. She didn't speak with bitterness. She just told the truth, her truth, calm, clear, and from the heart. She talked about how she used to believe that love meant sacrifice, that the more you gave, the more it would be returned. I thought if I loved him hard enough, he'd love me back, she said softly. But I was wrong. Love isn't something you should have to beg for. The audience sat in silence, hanging on every word. She spoke about the nights she cried alone, the dinners she ate by herself, the messages she sent that never got a reply. And then she said something that hit home for so many people watching. Sometimes, the rejection you fear the most is the very thing that sets you free. When he stopped loving me, I finally started loving myself. That sentence alone was shared by thousands online within minutes. Zanele didn't name Sipho. She didn't need to. The story was bigger than just him. It was about every woman who had ever been made to feel like she wasn't enough. Every person who gave their all and still felt empty. I stopped waiting to be chosen, she continued. I chose myself, and that changed everything. The host wiped away tears. Members of the audience nodded. Some even cried. Online, women flooded the comments with their own stories. "This was me," one wrote. "She just said everything I couldn't put into words." Another said, "I'm leaving my toxic relationship today. Thank you, Zanele." Celebrities reposted the clip. Therapists quoted her in sessions. Her book sales doubled overnight. But more than anything, people started to feel again, feel seen, feel brave, feel strong. Sipho saw the interview too, alone, in his apartment, the same one she had once filled with love. And as he watched her speak, something inside him broke, not out of anger, but regret. He finally saw the woman he had ignored, dismissed, and pushed away. But now, she wasn't just a woman he once knew. She was a voice, a movement, a symbol of strength. Zanele didn't scream to be heard. She spoke softly, and the world leaned in to listen. And in that moment, her healing became hope for thousands, maybe even millions. Sipho never thought life would catch up with him. For a long time, he believed he could do whatever he wanted and get away with it. He had been cold, careless, and cruel, not just to Zanele, but to others too. When Zanele left, he felt a little confused, maybe even irritated, but he didn't chase her. He thought he still had control. He thought the woman he cheated with would fill the gap, but that didn't last. At first, the new relationship seemed exciting, fun. No drama, no tears, no expectations. But soon the cracks began to show. The woman he cheated with was nothing like Zanele. She didn't cook for him. She didn't care about his day. She wasn't warm or understanding. In fact, she had her own life, and she didn't revolve around him. And when things got tough, she left just as easily as she came. One day, she simply said, "This isn't working for me," and walked out. No second chances, no looking back. Sipho was shocked. He wasn't used to being left. He had always been the one walking away. Now, the silence in his apartment felt different. It wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. There was no one checking in on him, no one asking if he had eaten, no one keeping his world from falling apart. And slowly, everything started to fall apart. At work, people started whispering. Some had read Zanele's book. Others had seen her interview. They didn't say his name, but some co-workers figured it out. One person even asked him, "Was that really about you?" He laughed it off, but inside, he was panicking. The shame was catching up to him. Soon, his boss called him in. There were complaints about his behavior. Some colleagues said he was difficult to work with, arrogant, even disrespectful. In the past, those things were overlooked, but not anymore. The company didn't want to be associated with someone being quietly talked about on the internet. Just like that, he lost his job. He went home that day with no one to call, no one to talk to, no one waiting for him. The apartment felt colder than ever. For the first time, Sipho truly felt alone, and it stung. He tried to distract himself. He watched movies, scrolled through his phone, even tried dating apps, but nothing worked. Every moment reminded him of what he had lost. Not just Zanele's love, but her light, her kindness, her care. Things he thought were small, Things he thought didn't matter, now they were everything. People he once ignored now ignored him. The man who thought he had it all figured out was now sitting in the ruins of his own choices. And deep down, he knew this was the beginning of his downfall, not because someone took revenge on him, but because karma didn't need to shout. It just waited quietly and hit him where it hurt the most. Sipho sat at his kitchen table with his head in his hands. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. No job, no partner, no laughter, no one to talk to. Just him and the echo of everything he had lost. For the first time in his life, he felt something real, regret, deep, painful, choking regret. He had tried to forget Zanele, tried to pretend he didn't miss her, but the truth was, he thought about her every single day. Every time he saw a couple walking hand in hand, every time he passed a bookstore with her face on display, every time he came home to an empty space that used to be filled with her warmth. One night, unable to sleep, he picked up a pen and wrote her a letter. Not a message, not an email, but a real, handwritten letter. Something about it felt more honest, like maybe she would feel the pain in his words if they were written by his own hand. He poured his heart out. He wrote about how sorry he was for everything, for the way he treated her, for not seeing her worth, for making her feel small when all she did was love him deeply. He told her he had lost everything, but the biggest loss of all was her. I didn't understand your love until I didn't have it anymore, he wrote. You didn't deserve my silence, my coldness. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I let you walk away. I was foolish, blind, and selfish. I don't expect anything from you. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, truly. He folded the letter, placed it in an envelope, and sent it to the last address he remembered. He didn't know if she still lived there. He didn't know if she would read it, but he hoped. Days passed, then weeks. Zanele did receive the letter. She held it in her hands, read every word, and sat in silence for a long time after. Her heart didn't race. Her eyes didn't fill with tears. She just felt calm. It was like reading a story from another life, a version of her that no longer existed. She appreciated the apology. She knew it came from a place of pain, but she also knew something else. She had healed too much to go back. So she folded the letter, placed it in a box with other memories, and never replied. Sipho kept checking his phone, waiting, hoping, but there was no message, no call, no sign. Some wounds don't need to be reopened. Some chapters are better left closed. Zanele had found her peace. She didn't need to explain, respond, or relive the past. His letter had arrived too late, not because she didn't forgive him, but because she had finally forgiven herself. And when you reach that kind of healing, silence is not cruelty, it's closure. Zanele's second book was even more powerful than the first. This time, it wasn't just about pain or heartbreak. It was about healing, growth, and becoming whole again. People waited eagerly for its release, lining up at bookstores, pre-ordering online, sharing quotes even before finishing the last chapter. And then came the final page, the last line. Sometimes the person you beg to love you is the one you must thank for walking away. Those words hit like a wave, gentle but strong, simple yet deep. They were shared all over social media, printed on t-shirts, quoted in podcasts, and written in journals. Women, men, people from all walks of life said they felt seen. Zanele didn't write those words in anger. She wasn't trying to shame anyone. She wrote them from a place of peace. She had begged once. She had cried, waited, and hurt in silence. But now, looking back, she realized that being left was the beginning of her becoming. If Sipho had stayed, maybe she would have never found her voice. Maybe she would have continued to shrink, to give too much, to live in the shadows. But his leaving forced her to stand up, face herself, and rise. That sentence wasn't just her truth. It became a reminder to millions that rejection doesn't always mean failure. Sometimes it's a redirection, a blessing in disguise. Zanele closed her book with that message, and the world listened. Not because she was famous, but because she was real. And her healing became hope for so many others still trying to find their way.